Welcome back to the Fit for Business and Life podcast. The Fit for Business and Life podcast is brought to you in partnership with Sharp Fit for Life and the Business Body Network, improving performance and transforming busy and overweight professionals, entrepreneurs, business owners and consultants along with their teams to become fitter, happier and more confident. The Fit for Business and Life podcast is all about sharing passion, knowledge and expertise around business and personal performance from our host, myself, Martin Sharp, a 30-year change maker in businesses large and small, and special guests sharing their know-how and experience in making changes in business along with themselves, featuring inspirational stories, insights, tips and practical knowledge, bringing more healthier, happier and higher achievement to your world. Why not follow this podcast? We're live on Spotify, Apple Podcasts and Amazon Music. And if you're watching this on YouTube, then hit that subscribe button and drop us a like. We very much appreciate your support. And sit back and enjoy this episode of the Fit for Business Life podcast, brought to you in partnership with Sharp Fit for Life and the Business Body Network. And today we're joined by Mark Overend from Ascentis Accountants. Hello, Mark.
Hi, Martin.
How are you doing?
Yeah, good. Thanks. You?
Very, very well. And just for absolute full disclosure, Mark, you are my accountant, so everyone now knows it.
I am, yes.
And it's been a fabulous 16 years that we've been working with you. And just so everyone's kind of got a little bit of the pen picture, when I first set my business up back in 2009, it was 2008 during the Leeds Business Show. That was happening in Millennium Square, where they had all the big marquees up. And I remember having the idea to set a business up. So I went out to look for an accountant and a solicitor. That's the two kind of things I was told, you definitely need these. And I turned up at this large marquee. I was walking around. I must have spoken to 30 different accountants that can bore you, more than a million ways sideways. And as I was almost finished with Sarah, we were just about to walk out of the tent, I just noticed in the corner was the kind of standard, when you get a booth, you just get a basic sign. It comes with like a table and thing. There was a chap sat at this table, and I'm a completer, so I like to make sure I've done everything. So I went and had a chat with him, and it was John. And I remember the conversation so vividly because he basically said, so you're looking for an accountant? I says, yes. He says, well, I'm not going to talk to you about tax advice. I'm not going to talk to you about accountancy or double entry bookkeeper and all that kind of jazz, because that's what we do. We're just an accountant. That's what you're looking for. What I am going to talk to you about, though, is your business. What is it you're looking to do? How are you going to set it up? What's the structure going to be like? And how are you going to continue to win new business? And at that point, I knew I had found the partner I was looking for my business. And it has just been a brilliant adventure ever since. We've done so many different things, and hopefully that kind of gives you a nice way in, because this is the kind of relationship you build with clients, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think accountants, yeah, John's right in what he said to you. We do your accounts and your tax and things like that because, with all due respect, most business owners don't know how to do that. You know how to do whatever it is that you do as a business owner, but you need advice, you need help, you need guidance, and you need someone who's got experience in those fields of business to help guide you. And yeah, absolutely, that is what we always look to do with any business that we work with, is not just do what we call compliance, i.e. file things that the government require you to file. Yes, we do all that, but we want to do more than that. We want to help people on their business journey and achieve what they want to achieve. So we want to understand your business and help you develop it in whatever way you want to develop it, whether that's growing it into a multi-million-pound PLC or just becoming a lifestyle business that meets your lifestyle needs and requirements.
I must admit, from personal experience, that knowing that you guys are there and the confidence and comfort it brings is just unbelievable, because there is nothing that you don't know. You just literally, it's a question comes up, something you see on the news or you read or something, or someone asks you a question. It's almost like a quick phone call or email away. I'll just drop a note to yourself or to John and just say, what's this? Have you said this? Do I need to worry about that? And he's like, no, it's all done. No. And I don't worry. That absolute comfort is so enjoyable. And I hear, for example, from many other small business owners that have such a mire of a time when it comes down to either working with their accountant or to understand their accounts or the problems that they get into from a financial perspective. It's a wonder some of them can sleep at night. I really do wonder.
But yeah, well, thanks for those positive comments. It's really great to hear that, I guess what we're always trying to sell is that peace of mind. Yes, it's looked after. Are you paying the minimum amount of tax, the legal minimum amount of tax? Are you actually, you're not doing anything that's accidentally making unnecessary tax bills or accidentally doing something illegal that you didn't even realize you shouldn't be doing. Or, is everything on track? When I talk about illegal, sometimes it can be as very simple as accidentally drawing money out as dividends when your company doesn't have the reserves to declare the dividends, and that can get you into difficulties from a financial perspective when you're running a company, especially in the early setup years, where profits can be hard to come by unless you're very fortunate and rush straight into high profits, which not many business owners do. They do occasionally. So yeah, lots of challenges, and we do try to sell peace of mind to people and say, look, yeah, if you follow our guidance and do these things, then you should be able to sleep at night in the comfort and knowledge that things are going well. Or if things aren't going well, at least you'll know where they're going, and we can help you to make sure that if there is things not going too well, that the fires are fought at an early stage, and we have lots of early warning signs to make sure that we're all aware of things, where they stand, where we stand, what can be done to perhaps change course or change tack or make things so that they're going, if they're going not very well, then that is minimized in terms of how badly wrong things go.
Yeah, and that kind of early warning, because it's the old adage of prevention's always better than cure. So sometimes having that early warning, being forewarned is to be forearmed, right? So then you can do something about it. You've got that ability then to change tack, to change the strategy. What's the buzzword was pivot for quite a while, wasn't it? But that all comes from the understanding the numbers, understanding actually what's happening inside the business, not just seeing them, but actually being able to interpret them the right way, and then actually say, if we continue to do this is the potential outcome of it. If we actually change this, might only be like half a degree or something, but it can make a big difference. And it's a bit like the old adage of the plane flying from New York to London. You'd be 1 degree out, you're suddenly landing in Italy or something. So it doesn't take that much to make a big difference. And the same with finances in a business.
Absolutely. And, I think the one thing that we really do commend every business owner to try and get is what we call financial mastery. And what we want to see is all, the space that we operate in, small businesses, which we tend to, small businesses can apply to many different companies, but we look at businesses turning over up to £10 million, really. And in that space, usually most business owners have financial systems, and they have people entering data into those financial systems. But far too many business owners are not getting any information out of their financial systems on a regular basis, either weekly or monthly, management information about how their business is performing, whether, is it profitable, all the aspects of it profitable, or is part of it carrying another part that's actually loss making. And to really get a deep understanding of your business, you need to have that financial mastery, and that really starts with making sure that your bookkeeping is done on a regular basis, that your management accounts are up to date and presented to you, and that you're looking at them. And if you don't really understand the numbers, then you're speaking to your accountant or any sort of business advisor, a business coach, or a combination of all three of them, to really start to try and understand the numbers and what they mean and whether things are going in the right direction. And we're fanatical about trying to help people. Modern technology, back in 20, 30 years ago, it was quite hard work to get management accounts. It involved spreadsheets and people typing numbers over various different software packages. Nowadays, with cloud accounting, the cloud accounting systems use technology. They download your bank transactions for you into the software. There's software that reads bills for you, and you can build yourself a mini ERP system, something that might have cost hundreds of thousands of pounds 40 years ago. It can now be built for maybe £50 a month subscription fees. And once you've got these software systems in place, if you keep the information up to date on a regular basis and look at it, then you can really start to get a good understanding of your business and see where things are going. And you can then build using technology. The software packages that we use, they're a bit like I always use the analogy of the iPhone. Apple built the iPhone. It doesn't actually do a great deal. It sends messages, makes phone calls, and takes pictures. The power of an iPhone is actually in the App Store, with all the apps that Apple have allowed other developers, and some they built themselves, to develop and put in there into the App Store. And cloud accounting is no different. Cloud accounting software, the one that we use most, is called Xero, but there's software packages like Free Agent as well. They have app stores. The apps build upon basic accounting technology and really allow you to get huge amounts of information and interpretation out of your financial data, so that you can really build an understanding and start to measure your business against. You can create key performance indicators for your business and measure your business against those. Start to do financial forecasting, things that a lot of these things, if you say to a business owner at any point, really, do you do any of these things? Often they'll be a bit worried and say, I don't even know how to do that. You don't need to know how to do it. The software will do the how, or your accountant with the software will do the how. You just need to learn how to look at it. And even the software can help you with that, because you can program it to have green is good and red is bad. If your financial interpretation of results is lacks any experience, then just look for the green good bits and the red bad bits, and focus on the red bad bits if you want to make things better. And if you feel good about life, look at the green good bits. It's it can be broken down into that sort of simple interpretation.
Yeah, nice simple traffic lights always help people. And I remember those early days, because when we first set up originally, it was because we were using Sage with yourselves. So you guys kind of run and managed it all. And I can remember it was like 2 or 3 different packages just to be able to do the payroll on one. There was the accountants in the another thing. Then to do the final accounts, it was a separate version. And all I used to do is run a series of spreadsheets in the background, almost as a shadow version of it, so I could get the numbers and see what was going on, because I really couldn't get to grips with Sage and things. And yeah, as kind of when we moved into, 2011, I think, when we moved over to the cloud versions, and it's just been fantastic, because we're all working on the same thing. We all can see the same set of numbers, and it's just collaboration. It's true collaboration between everybody inside my business, which includes you guys, because you make such a big impact on it. And again, going back to those early days, like the 2009, 2010, 2011, it feels like it was an eternity ago, but it's only like 14 years potentially. But you did teach me a hell of a lot. I mean, we went through a whole thing about how to look after your books, what things like fixed assets were, how you kind of work with those. You taught me how to read a balance sheet and actually interpret it correctly, the P&L accounts, etc., how to do those correctly from a business perspective, not from a project perspective. Because I'd got 20, 30 years of running projects of massive multi-billion size, and it's different. There are things that you need to account for as a business that you don't do when you're just running a project. So it was brilliant, kind of having that. It was true kind of mentorship. You guys were just holding my hand all the way through those early years, and still today, to be honest with you, many different things. And I remember many of the different books, for example, that were recommended. Things like the E-Myth book was a favourite that you guys sent me a copy of. The Paddy Lundy Supercritical Non-Essentials, that was another one. Yep. So this kind of relationship, I can absolutely 100% see that financial mastery, and not just see how important it is and understand how important it is, but actually know the path that people take to be able to get there, and having somebody that's there to help them on that journey. It's just paramount, because it accelerates the process.
Absolutely, yeah, and you're right. On top of the financial mastery, we love to promote business coaching and advisory services. We think that most business owners go into business for a reason. They have a passion. They're good at something, or they're good at selling, or perhaps they're good at something and they're good at selling, and they develop a business to a certain point. But very few of us, myself included, when I started out in my journey, you don't get taught how to run a business at school or at university. And most business owners are self-taught as they go along. Often business owners are either one person on their own, or there might be 2 or 3 people together. But without any previous experience of running a business, you can only gather as much information as is available to you. And I think our advice is always to surround yourself with as many people as you can who can provide you with advice on helping you to go along your journey. We talk about personal vision of success. So whenever we meet a new business owner who wants to use our services, we always ask them what their personal vision of success is. What do you want to achieve? You've set up a business. Do you want to, retire at 50, become a multimillionaire, just spend more time with your kids? What are you trying to do? What are you trying to achieve here? And once we know what they want to achieve, we can try and help them on that journey, because they've probably got partway down the journey. Then usually most people say they've got stuck somewhere. They've become very busy. They're in their business, working lots of hours, putting out fires, answering questions, and they find it very difficult to have the time to work on their business, to take a step back and develop strategy and direction for the business. So we run the Ascentis Business Club once a quarter and invite people to take half a day to come to our Leeds office, get away from their business. We actually take everybody's mobile phones off them, so they can't look at their emails or take calls, and just hold themselves accountable to we get them to set up a little one-page mini business plan, set themselves some objectives, and try and develop themselves and work and sort of make progress towards where they want to be. Fundamentally, we are accountants. We're not business advisors. So if they want to get more in depth, we have a number of business coaches that we work with, and we will often introduce them to business coaches if they want to get real strategic support in developing business plans that are, really in-depth type stuff. But that's how we try to help business owners. We try to take them on the journey. We try to get them started on journeys, try to get them out of the never-ending cycle of, well, I'll do that next month or I'll do that next year, because next month, next year, it just never happens when it comes to working on your own business, because the repeating busyness of your own working life constantly repeats itself and prevents you from prioritizing what really you should be prioritizing.
Yeah, the busyness of business, it really is an interesting phenomenon. And when you kind of start to set up your own business, people kind of warn you about it, but I don't think you actually really learn about it until you're actually in it. And then at that point, it's almost too late. You've got to then kind of dig yourself back out and find those spaces, separate that time out. But once you have, I mean, the results are absolutely fantastic, both personally and professionally, as well as for the organisation that you're establishing and growing. And I think that's one thing I've really loved is everybody I've ever advised to come and have a conversation with you or even work with you guys, they've always had great things to say. So I feel really comfortable and confident being able to not only just utilize you for my own service, but actually just saying to other people, go and give them a try, especially some people that have had horrendous kind of service from accountants before, or they kind of get the basic service. So they do like you say, the statutory account kind of thing. So yeah, you do the end of year accounts, you do potentially do payroll, but that's probably it. But actually the bits that help you run your business, that kind of give you that management information, that kind of help you make some of those critical strategic decisions, it's that kind of thing makes a big difference. When you're looking, for example, it might be taking a different direction. It might be looking at, like you say, looking to grow the business, or it might be in some cases that you're looking to almost like shrink back and take a different approach.
Yeah, and the world of accountancy is, there are simply different types of accountants. We kind of refer to the accountants that just do the compliance work, which they're just compliance firms. There's nothing wrong with what they do, but they will just do your statutory accounts, VAT returns, corporation tax returns, and personal tax returns, and the fees that they charge will reflect that they're just doing your compliance work. We classify ourselves as an advisory firm, so we will do all that work, but we will probably charge a fee higher than the repeating fees for a compliance firm, because we will then make ourselves available and proactively deliver advice to help you develop your business. From my perspective, I'm head of tax at Ascentis. I arrange pre-year-end tax planning meetings with all of our clients, so that we sit down in month 11. We leverage the financial mastery, so all of our clients should have good management accounts that we can look at in month 11 of an accounting year and understand the business. And we actually sit down and analyze those results, look at projected corporation tax liabilities, and talk about things that you might want to do to reduce those tax liabilities, whether that's putting money in your pension, buying new assets, perhaps a new company car. Electric cars are quite popular at the moment. Buying new electric cars can be tax efficient, doing things like that. And just being proactive with our advice, making sure that we're the ones proactively going out and saying, let's sit down, let's talk about these results, let's do something before the year end passes, before it's too late. And making sure that, you know, we're always on the front foot with making sure things are progressing. Not all accountants do that. Like I say, the compliance accountants will simply contact you after your year end, ask for your books and records, and file your accounts, and they will make sure they comply with the statutory deadlines. But apart from that, you probably won't hear from them. And if you ring them for advice, you might struggle to get some from certain accountants because they're just not in a position to provide it. But that's the service you're paying for at that level. And like I say, at our level, you're paying for a different level of service. But hopefully that advice that we wrap around all of the work that we do is beneficial and provides sort of a differential in terms of results that people see.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of another kind of big key differentiator is you bring in different people from the team who have those expertise. So, for example, I worked with you a lot with the end of year accounts and things. Worked with Lee on a whole variety of things inside the business, and John, and each of you have your area specializations as well, and things that you really enjoy. So, for example, when speaking with John, it's all about growing businesses. It's about how you exit strategies and stuff, and sometimes he can come up with ideas that are incredibly risky. And I'll have a similar conversation with yourself. You've got a much more conservative view sometimes, but it's great to kind of get those different viewpoints across the team, because then you're feeding yourself as the business owner to say, actually, there's different ways of looking at this problem. There's different ways of being able to approach it. And again, I find that's an incredible kind of benefit being part of the team effectively, because it's not just, you've not just got a one-man band accountancy, you've actually got a whole team of people behind you. You've got Chris, like, does tons of stuff around payroll, and Laura's just amazing. She kind of seems to have a finger in so many pies, and it's just so brilliant being actually having that capability. Have you found, for example, with other clients that they have that same rich experience, that they enjoy working with different people on different problems?
Absolutely, yeah. The feedback we get is generally, we're always grateful to receive the very positive feedback, and people are often say the same things. Yeah, I think Ascentis, you know, myself, John, and Lee have come together to form the partnership. We are very different personality profiles. We do work with, you know, the disc profiling system, which looks at how your personality operates in a work environment. We are all very different, as you say. John is a high D in terms of his personality profile, so he has lots of great ideas. His attitude to risk can be, you know, quite interesting sometimes, but he has, you know, failings that he's very well aware of in terms of, you know, following through and completing projects can be a challenge sometimes for him. He needs a good team around him to deal with the admin, if you like. He'll have lots of great ideas, but implementing them might be a bit of a challenge to him. But he's aware of that, and he surrounds himself with people who hopefully will deliver all of his great ideas. Myself, I'm quite a social person, so I like to collaborate with lots of people, you know, and work in it. And my specialism is tax. John operates other businesses as well. He's a finance director of his own residential construction company, so he builds houses, which obviously comes with risk. Just highlighting his attitude to risk. He's also got an investment in a wholesale wine business. And then Lee is again slightly different. He's a C type, so very conscientious, very attention to detail focused. You know, he wants to dot all of the I's and cross all of the T's. You know, and he will challenge, and he will challenge change. And John wants to change everything all the time. So we're all aware of our profiles, and we all work together in it, try to be as collaborative as possible. But it's great to have the different personality profiles, because when one of us needs to be reined in, usually the others can do that, or when one of us needs to be dragged forward, the others can do that as well. So yeah, I think as a three, it works quite well in terms of that, and it also then works well for our business. But it gives all of the people we work with, business clients like yourself, gives those you can get different perspectives on a challenge from the different conversations you have with myself or John. If you've got me and John in a room, you'll probably get three different, I think you've said before, you can ask a question and get three different answers. Not necessarily in a bad way, but you'll get, you could do this, or maybe you should do this.
Absolutely. And it's wonderful having that experience as well, when you guys are all in the room, we're sort of brainstorming problems or coming up with new ideas and things. And yeah, I mean, and some of the things like you said with John, with his other businesses as well. I remember some of the horror stories he was telling me about some of the construction works that he was doing, and then having to go back to the bank for another $500,000 here, another $1 million there, just to get some of these things off the ground. But he did it. And I think that kind of brings a level of confidence in what he can do, but then also a level of experience. So it's not just a case of doing the day in, day out accounts. So, this is, statutory what you've got to do, just like you've said, but actually kind of bringing that richer picture of how, as business owners in your own right, so these are challenges that are happening not only just to Ascentis, but also to all your other businesses, etc., that you guys are involved with, both of your clients' businesses and personal businesses. So it's amazing how that kind of reflects back in how you approach risk, how you approach ideas, how you, again, just having that ability to brainstorm across everybody is just fantastic. So we've kind of touched on how you guys all work, which is lovely. I mean, if we were going to talk about things that can go wrong, because again, everything isn't unicorns and rainbows, as we've said before in the past. What are some of the typical things you guys are finding at the moment? That's like the bigger issues that people are falling into the traps of. Because we hear that we're supposed to be in another recession. We hear about the spending crisis and everything else that's going on. We hear about all the potential problems with what's happening with Trump, Putin, and everything else. But how is it kind of affecting? What are the things that you are finding is really affecting small business at the moment and causing them pain?
I think the biggest thing that we come across as a challenge most commonly is cash flow. Cash flow issues, basically the biggest danger to a business is it runs out of cash. You run out of cash, you can't pay people. Somebody needs to be paid who can't wait, and they fundamentally take you to court and can wind your business up, and that is the end of your business. You fundamentally you lose everything. Managing cash flow is therefore critical to any business, regardless of size. And if you watch the news, things like Carillion went under. Carillion was massively in the news. Fundamentally, they went under from a cash flow perspective. They ran out of money, couldn't pay the creditors, and became a business that nobody would work with. So managing cash flow, and that comes back to financial mastery. Managing cash flow comes from financial mastery. If you understand profitability of your jobs, as long as all the jobs you're doing are profitable, then you should have good cash flow. As long that is caveated by, as long as you don't do anything with that cash that you shouldn't do. And so when I say shouldn't do, sometimes business owners can be their own worst enemy. Where did all the cash go? Well, actually, you've drawn it out and spent it. That Land Rover that you've got sat on the driveway probably wasn't something the business could afford yet, or perhaps on a less personal capacity, perhaps you've over expanded the business. You've bought too much equipment. You've bought too many things to try and grow too quickly, and you've taken the cash that should have been earmarked for something else and spent it, and now you can't afford the VAT or the corporation tax or something of that nature. So cash flow is a critical aspect of financial mastery, and before undertaking significant expenditure, cash flow forecasting really needs to be part of any financial reporting that you get from your finance team, whether that's internal or your accountant coming in to do it. Because if what happens if I spend £50,000-100,000 on a piece of equipment or on investing in something, or what if I want to draw it out to pay down my mortgage? What is that going to do to my business? Can my business afford that outlay, or is it going to damage it to the point where it can't actually operate going forward, or get to the point where I can't pay my wages, things like that? So it really is, for me, all about cash flow, all about making sure that you don't have the cogs grind to a halt because you've run out of money. Cash flow is, of course, driven by, you mentioned the recession. Recessions come, despite what chancellors, it doesn't matter what political persuasion you're from. We've had chancellors over the last 20, 30 years trying to convince us that they're going to beat recession out of the economy, and none of them have achieved it. I think we have to acknowledge that from an economics perspective, our economy is just going to go up and down, boom and bust. How high the booms are and how low the busts are perhaps might contract to a certain extent. The recession we're having isn't a particularly painful one at the moment, and that's because we didn't have a particularly large boom for the last 10 years. And in these times of downward economic activity, although technically the economy is apparently still growing, there are opportunities as well as challenges. I think one of the other big challenges that we hear about and we see are around employees and staff. For businesses that operate with people close to minimum wage levels, the national minimum wage increases have really caused a significant cost increase that they can't control. Businesses in the leisure sector, pubs, restaurants, all that sort of, retail sector, the challenges aren't just around staff, they're around energy costs as well, electricity and gas going through the roof and not really coming back down. That massive increase in cost base, again, it's, you've got to have the financial mastery to understand if your business remains a viable one, or whether you need to change your business model, or whether you just need to change your business completely. A lot of the businesses that we look after really are reassessing how they operate in these new economic environment where they've got much higher cost bases than they've had before, and they can't push them. You can't reduce your wages below minimum wage. You can't find lower energy costs because they're just not available. So it's critical to understand if those things are affecting you, what that impact is, and whether you can overcome it. Whether it's, the obvious answer is, well, just put your prices up, but that may make your business unviable. So some people say, I can't put my prices up, in which case you have to work out where you're going to take your business and what you're going to do. And again, I keep repeating myself, but having that financial mastery, having that understanding of your business from a financial perspective, makes you understand where you need to go and what you need to do to ensure that your business doesn't fail. Or if things are going to go wrong, that you do it in a controlled manner and you perhaps just wind your business down. If you say this isn't viable anymore, you don't want to go out in a big fireball of debt. You hopefully just want to wind it down in a controlled manner and say, unfortunately, I'm going to have to walk away from this, but I'm going to walk away from it in a controlled manner that doesn't have a negative impact on my credit rating for the next 6 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the probability is in a couple of years' time, they'll probably be setting something new up anyway. And it's kind of a nice segue, actually, moving from potentially having to wind something up because of the situation you might be in, and in a controlled manner, like you said, because you've got that kind of great financial advice and team behind you. But also it happens the other way. So I know there's a number of different business owners and larger businesses that have recommended to come work with you guys because they were looking for an exit, and they were looking at actually, how do we take that next step forwards? I remember one specifically that was actually looking to sell their business to another consulting firm, and they did so really successfully. And the chap who actually owned that business went on quite nicely to work with the acquiring organisation for a number of years afterwards as well, until he took retirement, and he's now spending many more times over in Portugal, as he keeps telling me on a very regular basis. So it's a big kind of area, is that it's almost like that exit planning, and that's again something that you guys really take into heart and really try to get the business owners to understand. Start with the end in mind. I know it's the old Stephen Covey adage, but it really is one of those mantras that you guys actually work with.
Absolutely, yeah. An exit strategy can cover lots of different scenarios. Sometimes it's about selling your business to an external third party, in which case you really do need to prepare your business well in advance. If you want to get the best price for your business, it needs to look as profitable as it can be, because fundamentally you're more than likely going to sell your business for a multiple of your bottom line profit. So you really want to be focusing on, minimizing your costs even more so than you perhaps would normally, and really, maximizing the profits you get for 2 or 3 years in advance. A bit like selling your house. You don't neglect your decorating for the 5 years in the run up to the putting the house on the market and having the photographer around to take the pictures to put on Rightmove. You spruce it up. You do the painting and decorating. You do the same with your business if you're going to take it into a sales scenario. That's if you're selling to an external third party. We also do quite a lot of family transition planning, where the next generation come into the business. They learn from mum and dad or uncle and aunt or whoever it is, and then they become ready to take on the business, and they want to do it in a tax efficient way. So we do quite a lot of it. It's called a management buyout effectively, but the management team is actually usually family members in our area, in our part of the world of small businesses, and where you're looking at management buyouts where the friendly management buyouts, parents or the older generation probably want to get the best value still, but they want to do it in a way that's affordable for the next generation as well. So they often act as a bank. They won't require the family members to go and get the lending from a bank, a formal bank. They will actually defer the consideration, and we sort of help guide them through the process and make sure that the people exiting are going to get capital gains tax treatment on the cash that they take out, because it's fundamentally a lower tax rate than it would be if they drew money out as dividends, and make sure that the incoming generation are well versed in what they need to do to take the business on, and then try to support them through the transition as well. And yeah, all sorts of structuring in that often expands as well into family wealth planning. We look at, often we are advising on businesses where, if they've developed significant cash reserves over years, what they might do with those cash reserves. We try to act in a way that an investor would act. So we will often challenge business owners, not just challenge business owners where the business might be struggling to try and bring things up to where they need to be, but often try not to allow business owners to become complacent. If you've got, reserves of £500,000 in the bank, you might feel very comfortable and sleep very well at night. But if your company only needs £100,000 for cash flow purposes, you've got to spare £400,000 in the bank. For a long period of time, interest rates were so low that if that money is sat in a bank account, it's returning, 0.5% interest. It's really not doing anything worthwhile. It should be invested in something that's returning a decent level of return. 5-6% return on investment is usually what an investor will look for when they're investing their money. If the bank account's giving you 0.5%, you need to do something else with that cash. If you don't want to expand your existing business, you need to find something outside of that existing business to do with the cash, and we need to do that in tax efficient ways. A lot of the time that'll be people looking to set up property companies. We try to advise on that. And setting up tax efficient structures to get money out of trading businesses and into property investment businesses, perhaps looking to get more money into pensions to invest in commercial property through pensions. And again, people looking to buy commercial premises, they might want to do that. Their instinct sometimes is to buy them inside the business that they trade through, the limited company that they trade through. But from a commercial risk perspective, that's not always the best advice. You don't really want an investment asset sat alongside your trading business. You might be going well now, but perhaps 5 years' time, we have a recession, things don't go well. Suddenly your business stops trading for some reason. You weren't able to ride out the storm. And if you end up losing your commercial property as well, it's quite devastating. Whereas if you've taken a bit of time to plan for things and you've got the commercial property owned outside of the trading limited company, perhaps in a separate holding company or in a pension, then it's actually a protected asset and it doesn't get taken down with the trading company. So you're left with something to carry on with from an income generation perspective. So yeah, lots of planning that we can do in these areas. And often it's what takes up most of my time actually is helping business owners with challenges of that nature. How do I invest? How do I get my money out of my company? How can I do it in a tax efficient way?
Absolutely. So brilliant to hear that you're continuing to help many, many more business owners. And I'm sure there's going to be many more that we'll be doing in the future as well. And speaking of which, how do people actually get hold of you? What's the best way of contacting yourself or any other member of the team?
Well, if you want to know about Ascentis generally, the website, ascentisllp.co.uk is the best place to start. That's got all of our contact details on it. I'm on LinkedIn, Mark Overend on LinkedIn from Ascentis Accountants, found relatively easily, or my email address, mark.overend@ascentisllp.co.uk.
Fantastic. We'll pop all those details in the description below as well, so you guys will be able to find them very quickly if you want to have a chat with Mark. And definitely recommend that, you just have a conversation. You'll never know where it'll go. You can always find something really interesting to talk about with Mark, with John, with Lee, with the rest of the team there. And they're always willing to help, which is always a great place to be. So once again, thank you very much, Mark, for being on the Fit for Business Live podcast. And thank you all for listening as well. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy and hectic days to listen to the Fit for Business Live podcast. This episode was brought to you in partnership with Sharp Fit for Life and the Business Body Network, helping busy professionals and their teams become even more healthier, happier and higher achieving in business and in life. If you'd like to join us as a guest or even just get in touch to know more about the topic we've covered, then we'd love to hear from you. Simply email hello@sharpfitforlife.com. So once again, thank you for listening to the Fit for Business Live podcast. The Fit for Business Live podcast is produced and presented by Wax Tie Limited. All copyright is applied.